listening to Alberta Radio, bringing you the best news, music, and commentaries. Here's your host, Jason LaFace.
All right, welcome to the show, everybody. And the first track we're starting with is my new production, Hack the Planet, with my buddy John Wikkened. Here we go, here on Alberta Radio. Let's go.
Tunnel vision. Chrome horizon. Signal driven. Virus in my veins, codes in my eyes. Backdoor breathing, fire in the dries. Swipe that key, root that gate. Clock runs hot, we don't wait. Are you in? Are you in? Are you in or hiding? Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Like a rising virus. Hack the planet. Break that wall in a single click. Click. Hack the planet. Flip that script, make it run now. Wait. Hack the planet. All these lines turning into bliss. Hack the planet. Hack the planet. Masks on screens, ghosts in the feed. We press send, worlds delete. Glitch that name, shake that law. One soft touch, pull the plug from it all. Are you in? Are you in? Are you in or hiding? Raise your hands. Raise your hands. Like a rising virus. Hack the planet. Break that wall in a single click. Hack the planet. Flip that script, make it run now. Wait. Hack the planet. All these lines turning into bliss. Hack the planet. Crack that shell. That code still, damn it. The planet. Break that wall in a single click. The planet. Flip that script, make it run now. The planet. All these lines turning into bliss. The planet. Hack the planet.
Well, George, you're fascinated with language. Why?
Because language is how they hide things, Larry.
Hide what?
Reality. Nobody lies anymore. They rename it.
Example.
It's not spying, it's surveillance. It's not propaganda, it's messaging. It's not censorship, it's moderation.
That concerns you?
No, what concerns me is people believe it.
The El Bozo, or Liberalis fanaticus, is a hardy, long-lived species commonly found in the settled regions of eastern Canada, though sightings persist even in the west. This boomer subspecies has adapted remarkably well to stable habitats, paid off mortgages, cushy pensions, and reliable access to Canadian Liberal Party talking points brought to them by the CBC. Notice the distinctive behavior, the rhythmic flopping of elbows up and down in unison, often performed in groups during moments of high agitation. The signature call rings out clear and insistent, elbows up, a rallying cry that echoes across lawns, community halls, and comment sections alike. Elbozos display an extraordinary focus on external threats, particularly the distant figure of Donald Trump, whom they perceive as a greater threat than any domestic challenge. Its attention to the affordability struggles of younger Canadians remains limited. Having long secured its own nesting site and food cache, the Elbozo prioritizes the preservation of established comforts. It derives much of its worldview from a single, trusted source, the CBC, consuming daily broadcasts with the same steady dedication the beaver shows to its dam. Ever seen an Elbozo? Well, look, here it is now, elbows flapping vigorously in defense of the status quo. For a more complete story of Elbozos, why not contact the Canadian Wildlife Service in Ottawa?
All right, elbows up, right? I love that. National Roast put that together with footage from Karima Sayed, who is a litigator in Toronto, and she's been covering a lot of the protests for the last few years, a lot of coverage, and she's been very, very awesome at what she does just to show the public what's really going on in our streets. And, you know, she's taken a lot of flack, but I commend Karima. She's done some really good work and represented some of our friends. So moving on, the show today, folks, thank you for joining our 5th episode of Alberta Radio Podcast today. Today is April the 6th, April 6th, 2026. And we got a good lineup of a show for you today as we're improving. I want to say thank you for all of those folks who've been supporting us first. You guys have been a really detrimental impact on me and our brand, and we thrive to do better every time we push new content. So we're taking suggestions, we're talking to folks right now, which is really awesome, and we're really mobilizing what we're doing for this brand. Now, today's topics, we're going to start on the AI data centers. Now, I've been inundated with requests from many Albertans regarding the AI data centers. And they have a valid point, and I'm a listener. So my thing is, I do plan to run for mayor of Edmonton, or potentially run for, elected official in the Alberta legislature in the future. But I am somebody who's very tech savvy. So before we get into the AI stuff, I'm going to just introduce myself to those Albertans who will give you a better understanding of where I'm coming from and my experience with information technology, AI, data, all that stuff, right? So I started off with computers at the age of 6. I'm 52 years old, and I started hacking right away. I mean, I was one of those kids that would tap the entire neighborhood, right? Everybody's phone lines around me were tapped, and I was recording their calls and listening in on them. Hacked servers back in the 90s, late 90s. We hacked, my friends and I and colleagues, we've hacked different types of military servers throughout the US and Canada. We also hacked NASA, and it's documented. One of my friends went to jail for that. And I mean, we've done a lot of great, legit, elite hacks, not just on computers, but with telephony and network systems and data breaches. Cybersecurity is a big thing for me. I'm a cybersecurity specialist. I do consult from time to time to give my input on different issues, and I also help track down perpetrators and those targeting the kids online. Now, when it comes to the AI data centers, I just want to say to all my listeners and supporters that I am listening to you. I'm hearing you. You have valid concerns about these new builds, so I'm just going to go and start exactly what this topic's about. So today we're going to dive into the hottest debates happening right now in Alberta. It's the push for the data centers, especially those massive AI-powered ones. Now, the UCP government has rolled out an ambitious AI data center strategy aiming for over $100 billion in private investment. And we're talking about jobs, economic diversification away from the oil and gas industries to start a new industry and position Alberta as a North American leader in the tech industry that runs the modern world. Now, cloud computing and AI training, secure data storage, you name it, we need it. That is the bottom line. We do need this. And rather than give it to other provinces, I'm a strong supporter in keeping this as an Alberta investment. But I am listening to the residents' concerns and the people. So I've come up with a solution. Now, here's the thing. A lot of the residents in small towns and rural areas are pushing back very hard. And as someone who's been elbows deep in data centers, servers, networks, I had my own call center. And yes, I've hacked a lot of servers and done a lot of security work since 97, really. Now I get both sides. So today I'm going to give you all the straight rundown and lay it out how we can do this right without selling out our small communities. And I hope the UCP takes heed to what I'm going to say here. Now, first, let's start with the big picture. Alberta has what the world wants right now: reliable energy. Cold climate, they want cold climate for free cooling because of where we are north, and plenty of land, and deregulated grid that lets projects bring their own power. Now, we've got projects like X Structures Cal 3 in Rocky View County near Calgary, which is under construction right now. It's a $750 million, 90 megawatt, set to come online later this year as Alberta's largest hyperscale facility. Now, there's also the T&E and Data District Partnerships planning for facilities starting in Olds in 2026, later this year, and Bonnyville later next year. With over a gigawatt longer in the pipeline, but there's a headline grabber out of this, you know. So the thing is the Synapse protocol in Olds for a $10 billion campus with a massive 1.4 gigawatt on-site gas plant, billed as potentially Canada's largest data center. Now, the UCP's approach makes sense on paper, don't get me wrong, but they've passed Bill 8 to fast-track the self-powered projects. They make developers pay for the grid upgrades and offer incentives so regular Albertans don't foot the bill. The idea is bring your own generation so power-hungry beasts don't overload the existing grid. But let's be honest about the complaints, because they're valid, they're real, and the political whim is ignoring them. And that becomes bad politics and bad policy. Now, in Olds, residents are furious, and I've been contacted by many residents in the Olds, and I'm listening to them. I had to come up with, what can we do to rectify this issue? And I had to look into this and use my actual tech experience, talk to a few people in the States that I know, and figure out what can we do to address this issue and come up with a common sense plan that works for everybody. So in Olds, the residents are pissed. The Synapse site was proposed right across the highway from hundreds of homes. I mean, there's 700 residents within an 800-meter distance of the site. The people are worried about constant noise from the turbines and cooling fans, air emissions, and I will agree. If the government or these developers or data center owners are saying that there's not a human impact by those generators and the turbines, they need to keep smoking something, because I'll tell you, it does affect the brain, and it does frequency on sound. It's enough to annoy people. So yes, they have a valid reason, especially if it's 800 meters away. Now, the issue here is the cooling fans, the air emissions, heavy construction traffic, water use for cooling, and what it does to property values and quality of life in small farming towns. I don't understand why they did this either. The Alberta Utilities Commission just rejected the initial application in March 26, citing incomplete info, poor environmental assessments, and crucially insufficient public consultation. The company says they're going to reapply and do better, but the backlash is very loud now by the folks. So similar grips are popping up in other spots, with water stress in the Bow and Oldman Basins, projects near AG land, agricultural land, and the feeling of being steamrolled. And that's how people feel right now. So I'm all for development, don't get me wrong, but these data centers and They create construction jobs. They are permanent tech and operation roles. There's tax revenue. They support the AI economy. They support all the economy that supports for Alberta's economy to grow, and it gets bigger. Now, Alberta's sovereign data infrastructure matters. It does. It's less resilient on former hyperscalers for critical systems and government systems, healthcare, finance, and yes, even national security. But as conservatives who actually understand this tech, someone who's designed, secured, and run data systems over 2 decades like myself, it's not sitting in. It's a bad sitting, and it isn't pro-business. It's sloppy. It creates exactly the delays, lawsuits, and community division we're seeing. Plopping a gas-fired power plant and a giant cooling system right next to family homes in a town of 10,000 people. Come on, what are you thinking? It's not respecting rural Albertans, for one, and that's where I stand with the people. That's inviting NIMBY fights that slow everything, not in my own backyard, right? And that's what's going to keep continuing. And the plan just needs to be adjusted for this to work. So here's where the UCP needs to listen, and here's where my ITX hacking perspective comes in. These aren't like 2000, year 2090s era server rooms anymore, where they're network rooms and you'd have a couple boxes, and it's nothing like that no more. This is modern AI data, and they're monsters. And they demand a rock-solid 24/7 baseload with power and a massive efficient cooling system. Now, gas works as a bridge, sure, but we've got a better, smarter, Alberta-made option staring us in the face, and nobody's even thinking about it. It's our rivers. Our rivers, folks. Now, build these centers. The solution for this all right now to take this away from rural communities and put them in a controlled environment that is going to benefit Alberta in the long run in power generation, but also benefit the AI data centers and help our economy grow. Now, what I'm proposing is this: build the centers along Alberta's major river corridors. Think like Peace River up north stretches out of north, which stretches of the North Saskatchewan or even parts of the Athabasca, where water is more abundant and stress is lower. So you pair the facilities with a small-scale run-of-a-river hydro or molecular or modular hydroelectric generation, and no giant dams, no flooding valleys, just low-impact generation. And these reliable turbines, they'll tap the natural flow for clean, stable baseload power with zero fuel cost volatility. This is what we should be doing. Rivers give you 2 wins in one: an on-site power generation that doesn't rely solely on gas, and ready source for closed-looped or high-efficient cooling systems. From a technical standpoint, this is gold. This is gold, folks. Stable voltage, frequency matters, and when you're running thousands of high-density GPU racks that can't afford brownouts, hydro provides that without emissions, headaches, and or fuel logistics. So it future-proofs the projects against gas price swings and carbon rules. That's another thing for these data centers to understand. But we need the province to mandate this. This also leverages what Alberta already has in spades, our waterways. While keeping the heavy industrial stuff away from small town backyards, we're generating power, clean energy, and we're not flooding and we're not damaging the environment. Yes, we're going to need an environmental impact report to see an assessment to see how this will do, but I honestly believe this is the way to go. And we need to prioritize the pre-zone heavy industrial areas like the model of Sturgeon County's industrial heartland. Now, keep these campuses out of residential zones and prime agricultural land. Respect property rights and quality of life for the folks who live there. Do proper and early consultation and not last-minute open house 2 weeks before the filing, right? That's what's going on right now. So we need to prioritize the heavy industrial areas. And, like I said, Sturgeon County is a great example. Now, this isn't anti-development. I just want to make that clear. It's smart. It's conservative development. It's pro-jobs. It's pro-investment. It's pro-energy sovereignty, but done with a common sense and respect for rural communities. Alberta can lead in all this infrastructure without turning small towns into industrial sacrifice zones. I can tell you that right now. And the UCP has the big vision and has the right vision to attract all that hundreds of billions of dollars to create high-skilled work, and it diversifies the economy. And the execution in this it matters the most. So what matters the most is we need to listen to the residents raising the legitimate flags, incorporate real tech input from people who've actually built and secured these systems, and mandate better sitting river corridors with hydro potential industrial zoning away from homes. If we get this right, it's a massive win for Alberta. A good paying job also that doesn't disappear when the oil prices dip, it cleaner baseload options, and real economic growth that doesn't pit neighbors against neighbors. So what do you think, folks? Are you seeing data center proposals in your areas? Drop me a line. Let me know. And I'll look into this for you. But I am proposing this to the Alberta government that we should be using our riverways and move away from the small towns. You know, we don't have to build these massive hydroelectric dams that's going to flood areas and cause so much, devastate. It's going to devastate the land around. No, we're not going to do that. But we can create common sense, small, closed loop circuits off the rivers. And I mean, there's, you know what I mean? It's just a smart thing to do. I never understood why they didn't do this, right? So that's my intro or my explanation for the AI data centers. I just look at it this way. I've been contacted by so many Albertans about this issue, and I had to come up with something. Like, I had to look at this and say, okay, we can come up with a resolution for this. And right now, the way I see it, there's poor planning, it's poor project management, poor planning on behalf of the corporations that own these data centers, or they're just looking for whatever area they can try and say, hey, government, just approve it. But that can't happen. So that's where I'm at, and I will be posting more information about the data centers. Now, I'm in support of this. It's job creation, but we have to do that responsibly, right? Like I said. So with that, we are going to play some more music, and we got a great show. I'm going to cover some other topics like self-governance on cannabis with the First Nations and First Nations self-governance and the path to Alberta independence, and also cover a little bit about the lunacies with the Liberal government right now. Because, I mean, I don't know what's going on with our government. It blows me away. You know what I mean? It just blows me away. So, with that said, here we go. We'll go with this and then play a track.
We already knew that Justin Trudeau was not worth the cost, the crime, the corruption, and the cover-up. But now we know that he cannot protect our people or our country. We've just received these documents that Trudeau has been covering up for years. Documents related to a massive security breach at the Trudeau government's most sensitive laboratory.
So, the reason why I'm playing this is the fact to remind Canadians that you've been had by the Canadian government on the Liberal Party of Canada. It's now evident that the gain-of-function use, the manipulation of the virus, and how it was deployed on humanity was a crime. But Canadians, why aren't you doing anything about this? Why aren't you screaming to the heavens? This was reported a couple years ago. And I'm just rehashing some points to make you understand that your government is not for you, the people of Canada. So for me, my drive in Alberta is to continue focused on Alberta's independence and move forward for a new vision for Alberta. Get the smart people in power, get them into the political realm of things so that we can transition to a new and better government when the time comes. And get away from Canada. Canada has turned against people, folks. Wake up. I don't understand why nobody is standing up and fighting. So, anyways, got a new track. This one here is again with my buddy John Wikkened. And this is God is the DJ here on Alberta Radio.
Hands up, hands. Lost time, strobe sky, we rise, we fly. You feel that pull, static in your skull. Every doubt erased as the floor gets wet. Close your eyes, you already know. Every heartbeat begging for control. God is the DJ. We are the sound. Bodies in replay. Heaven on the ground. God is the DJ. Turning you up. You pray in the baseline. You're saved in the drop. God is the DJ. Sweat palms, gold chain, laugh hard, feel strange. Your pulse, my veins, same way, same name. We don't need signs that kick and climb. Every soul aligned on the same loud line. Close your eyes, you already know. Every heartbeat begging for control. God is the DJ. We are the sound. Bodies in replay. Heaven on the ground. God is the DJ. Turning you up. You pray in the baseline. You're saved in the drop. Hands to the sky, no script, just faith. If love has a voice, it's loud in this place. God is the DJ. We are the sound. Bodies in replay. Heaven on the ground. God is the DJ. Turning you up. You pray in the baseline. You're saved in the drop. God is the DJ. God is the
Broadcasting around the world.
You are listening to the Great Alberta Radio Show.
All right, folks. Let's shift gears to another story that's boiling over right now in Canada. This one is out on the East Coast, and we're talking about the RCMP raids hitting Mikmaq First Nations cannabis shops in Nova Scotia. Blockades on highways, seized products, arrests, and First Nations leaders drawing on a hard line, saying the province and the Mounties have no business enforcing on their lands, as justly they're right about that. So I am a conservative. I'm also a Métis. I'm also somebody who believes in the rule of law and treaty rights and letting communities run their own affairs where the Constitution says they can. This one hits close to home for me. You know, back in 2018, 2019, and over the last few decades, you know, I've been involved as a cannabis activist on promoting the medical use of it, using it as alternative treatment for opiate tapering, and helping people with different ailments that they suffer from, right? And it's proved science that we use. I'm also a certified cannabis educator. And back in 2018-19, myself with other First Nations cannabis shop owners and community members, we went around all the reserves in Ontario and we helped them set up self-governed cannabis shops on their territories. We had the chiefs issue band council resolutions, which are called BCRs, and boom, they had a regulated, community-controlled system. And it worked, and it still works. There's no chaos, no black market explosion, and it's locally controlled with an economic opportunity that gives kickbacks to each individual reservation that shops are located on. And all the shops that are located on reserves in Ontario are local community band members from their reserves. So it's 100% homegrown business, entrepreneurship. Now, so when I see, the RCMP suddenly hammering these shops in Nova Scotia, it makes zero sense to me. Because today, it's breaking it down and saying exactly what the federal and provincial governments should do instead. Copy the Ontario playbook. But they're not doing that. The RCMP is just going in there, they're defying, I don't understand why they're targeting. But first, the facts on the ground. So this kicked into high gear after Nova Scotia's Justice Minister issued a directive back in December 2025 telling the police to crack down on hard, unlicensed cannabis operations. Since then, especially February and March 2026 of this year, the RCMP have hit multiple Mikmaq communities, Eskasoni, Potlatak, Paknankek, Wikkened, Mambertu areas, and spots near Digby. So they've seized cannabis products, they've issued tickets, they've made some arrests, they hauled away inventory. One raid in Potlatak even led to community members blocking highways and trapping RCMP vehicles in protest. And they vandalized the vehicles, just like Six Nations and Tyendinaga did and Oka did. You have no right on the territory and go in and raid people like that. So you're going to learn one way or another. Now, do I support what the members out in the East Coast are doing in retaliation to the police? Of course I do. I'm Métis Mikmaq. That's my folks, man. It's my brothers and sisters. My family, they came from Basque in 1496. And we settled on the lands of the East Coast, which is today Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Labrador. And we lived amongst the First Nation, Mi'kmaq and Beotucks for 149 years peacefully before the Crown came and eradicated our lands and took it away from us. The expulsion of Acadian lands. So, when I look at all this, I'm in support of the resistance, is what I call it, but it's justifiably so because of they're exercising their right to self-governance, and that's their right to do so. Now, Mi'kmaq leaders aren't backing down, which is good. Member 2 First Nation just passed a formal resolution telling the province and RCMP to stay the hell off their lands when it comes to the cannabis and tobacco regulation. They say it's a treaty-protected right, part of their inherent self-government and peace and friendship treaties. Chiefs are calling these shops unregulated on their territory, not illegal. They've got their own cannabis control laws now, and they're pointing out that this isn't something new. This isn't some new criminal enterprise. These operations have been running for years, and often with the knowledge of authorities, and the authorities are going to raid them anyway. So look, I'm not here to say every shop is perfect or that organized crime never touches the edges, but the rule of law still matters, and let's call it for what it is. You went from a sudden shift to live and let live to aggressive enforcement on sovereign First Nation lands. And after the 2018 Federal Cannabis Act legalized the stuff nationwide, many reserves carved out their own space. Right across, I was with Ontario when we did it. And Ontario, we got it right early. We were the first ones to get it right early. Now, chiefs use BCRs to opt in or opt out. They set their own rules, licensed local operators, they kept it on reserve, and generated revenues for the communities. And it cut down on the underground market, created jobs, and respected Section 35 of the Constitution, Indigenous rights to self-government. Now, why the sudden of targeting in Nova Scotia? Well, the province says it's about unlicensed sales, public safety, and loss of tax revenue, just like the way Ontario did before and all other provinces that scream the same rhetoric. It's fair concerns on paper, but raiding treaty lands, breaking doors, and seizing product from community-run spots, that smells like the same old top-down Ottawa and provincial knows-best attitude that caused friction for generations anyways. And it ignores the constitutional reality that First Nations aren't just another municipality. They have the right, they have the treaty rights and self-government authority that counts, and they've repeatedly affirmed their rights. So for my boots on the ground experience in Ontario, the BCR model is simple. It's it's conservative as hell. Let's say that much. It empowers local chiefs and councils and elected leaders who know their people to set standards. It collects revenues for housing, for education, for services, and keeps outsiders from exploiting the gray zone. And that's something that we did. And it took us a couple years to get rid of a lot of organized crime off our reses. But with the ability with the BCR, we have like Wanapitei First Nations in Ontario. They got a grow facility with a great store, with a couple great stores. One of the first, the first First Nations cannabis dispensary shop was opened in Wanapitei First Nations by my friend Chad McGregor. And then who was it? They started opening up shops in Oneida. Then we opened up, then Derek and them opened up Creator's Choice. Now there's Supreme Leaf. So, I mean, when you look at how they did it, yeah, at first the cops were raiding the shops. They were raiding shops. And then when you go to court, and you know, you go, because I'd always go to court with my friends to, you know, try and help them get bail or protest, because it's, you know, I'm an activist and I was protesting. You know, every time that we had our friend arrested and they were going for bail, there was a guy with fentanyl, always a guy with fentanyl, with enough fentanyl to kill four city blocks of citizens, getting a $500 fine and a slap on their wrist, and out the door he goes. And then our guys who are just, they're on their own reserves, self-governed, permission by the chief and council, getting raided anyways, and having to spend dead time in jail for a plant, right? But let fentanyl run wild. And look what fentanyl did to our communities right across the country. So, you know, people look at this as, oh, well, cannabis is a drug. Well, it's not. It's a plant, and it's a medicinal plant that's been used for thousands of years by humanity. You know, the misconception is that of what the government tells, what the government brainwashed on the masses to say that it's such a bad thing, but really it's not. What's bad is these synthetic drugs, this fentanyl, this, you know, all this other crap that's on the streets that's killing people, turning them into zombies. Big pharma is a big factor. But let's pick on cannabis. I'll tell you something. While I was an activist for cannabis and became a certified cannabis educator, I also went out and I got a certificate. I went through a certification through Stanford University on the medical, through the medical division. And I got my certification in tapering and opiates using an alternative. And I created my own alternative program. And what I did is, instead of creating my own program, I teamed up with a current program that was offered here out in Vancouver, which is the Cannabis Substitution Project with Neil Magnuson and, you know, the people who really started this whole movement in Canada for generations now. But we noticed that we needed to help people, especially with addictions, get people to stop shooting up. That was our role. That was our drive. I took on 60 people and I got 52 healthy. They're back to work. They graduated school by now. You know, and out of all those people, the people who didn't make it, those people are dead now from overdoses, from fentanyl and these synthetics that are on the streets. And you tell me what's worse. But you want to scream at the First Nations about self-governance. You can't have it both ways, folks. The way I look at it is this. To move this together in terms of self-governance and speaking up for First Nations and Métis people about this, and in the, I guess, in regards to Alberta independence. So what I say is this. The First Nations here in Alberta need to self-govern their stuff, everything. They need to debark off the system and tell the province that you're not going to have government run anything. You're not going to come in on our reserves and start doing whatever. And the First Nations in Alberta should start really thinking about creating their own tribal police, setting up their own policies and governance for, you know, self-controlled pot shops, self-controlled tobacco, and let it run. Now, at the same time, as Albertans are voting for independence, it's a simple fix. The First Nations territories in Alberta need to declare sovereignty amongst each other, or create a coalition of First Nations. They have a federation of First Nations, but it doesn't work. But they need some type of new coalition, and it would be to represent the sovereign states of the First Nations of Alberta, or of whatever they want to call it. Let them self-govern. Alberta supports it. Alberta we don't stop making deals with them. We continue to do what we've been doing since Alberta started. You know, it's the federal government that creates these problems, and don't forget, some of these reservations are still federally controlled. So it has nothing to do with Alberta. But what I see is a problem in Alberta. The same thing that's going on in the East Coast right now. And I've said this to Chief Cody Thomas of Enoch Cree Nation last year when I talked to him briefly on the phone. Actually, it wasn't briefly. I talked to him for like 2 hours on the phone. And I discussed this issue about having self-autonomy and self-governance on cannabis and cannabis, alcohol, and all other controls for self-control. We did it in Ontario. I mean, I know a lot. We can do it. And the chiefs know this already, right? They know they can issue the BCRs. So the way I look at it is, from my experience from the boots on the grounds, like I said, the BCR model is simple, it's effective, it's conservative, and it empowers the local chiefs and councils, elected leaders who know their people, right? So there's no need for RCMP SWAT-style visits, and overall it would build self-reliance instead of welfare dependency. The money that's generated from the cannabis industry on First Nations in Ontario are generating so much money that it's helping innovate the reserves and invest in other areas where there's a surplus of money, right? So everybody's getting a piece of the pie, and it's helping their communities. Now, this also respects property and community decision making, and it actually reduces crime by bringing the trade out of the shadows from local oversight. Now, the Mikmaq are doing exactly now. They're issuing their own resolutions and control laws. Instead of escalating it with more raids and blockades, the smart conservative move is for the feds and Nova Scotia to sit down, recognize those BCRs, and negotiate a Made in the East Coast framework that mirrors Ontario. Treaty rights, they're not theoretical, and I know that. They're the law of the land, and they're forcing a one-size-fits-all provincial licensing regime on a reserve. That's a recipe for exactly what we're seeing: protests, lost trust, and division. This isn't being soft on crime. It's about being smart on governance. And conservatives believe in limited government, local control, and economic freedom, and First Nations exercising that self-government on their own territory, that fits that perfectly. It creates real jobs. It keeps money in the Indigenous communities and honors the treaties our country is built on. Now, these raids, it's a grab for headlines, grab for some product, and I can guarantee they're not destroying that product. All the cops are probably using it, getting high, right? So it doesn't solve any underlying issues. It just inflames everything. Now, UCP folks in Alberta, you should pay attention to this. We have our own First Nations partnerships on energy resources and, yes, potential cannabis and other regulated trades. But let the lesson be clear here. Partner with chiefs through proper self-government tools doesn't steamroll them. And what I think is if we move forward with an independent Alberta, I think we should allow the First Nations to self-govern their own products. And I think we should open the doors to allow their products to be in the mainstream populace at the same time to offer cost reduction. Don't get me wrong, smoking's not good. Okay, I get it. But when you're going to buy a pack of cigarettes in Alberta for $15 for a 20-pack, and that's because the federal government says so and public health, and they have to regulate everything all the time, I'm sorry, no. I do believe that, look at, it's no different than somebody who drinks hard alcohol every day. It's actually worse, somebody who drinks hard alcohol every day, right? What about the addicts on the street that are getting a safe supply, or a supply from organized crime, and everybody's turning a blind eye? You're not doing nothing to police that like you do with cigarettes and alcohol and cannabis. So what I'm saying is, on a new marketplace, a new financial drive for First Nations in Alberta with an independent Alberta should be to have an open marketplace for First Nations to be in the mainstream market. And this will mend. It will actually benefit everybody in the long run. It creates a solid trading partnership with First Nations and gets rid of the rhetoric of division. We solve problems rather than create them and let them linger, right? So, I don't know. What do you think, guys? I know you guys are following a lot of stuff. I don't know if you have followed the raids in the East Coast, but I will say this. Ottawa and the province need to respect the BCR-style self-regulation on the reservations. And they need to, First Nations need to focus more on policing. So Ontario has tribal police, and they have a great tribal police force. I have friends who are tribal police officers, and they're involved in the cannabis industry on their own territory. So not only they're doing their job protecting public safety, but they're ensuring that the market is secure and safe too, so that crafters are able to get in the game and it's all certified. And I want to say this, because people will come at me and say, well, what about the testing and quality control? Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga, Oneida area, in Mohawk Territory, has a multi-million-dollar facility that is better than any federal government's approved grow facility in this country. They have testing capabilities for every First Nation that wants to send them samples to test their products to make sure there's no contaminants, to make sure it's safe before it goes out for shipping. I did it. I tested all my products when I was working closely with First Nation shops before COVID, where we were providing edibles because I'm Métis, and it was my cousins allowing me to sell out of their stores. So I had a opportunity there, but COVID killed it. But the work we did was the most valuable and important work we ever done for First Nations and self-governance and self-determination in terms of the cannabis industry in Ontario. And I am proud to say that I'm very happy with Bob out of Tixamang, Derek and Chad out of Wanapate First Nations, Joe, and Sagamok and Thunder Bay and Timmins area, Tim and Jamie and everybody from Oneida and Crystal from Oka or from Askawaskani. I mean, all of us did such great work together, right? And we need to do this across the board. And this when you create things like this that mobilizes the people, that allows innovation, especially First Nations, it goes a long way. And we shouldn't be sitting here and saying you could do it. We shouldn't be giving them permission to do it. They're self-governed anyways. It's their own territories. We should allow them their sovereignty. We should allow them the partnership and, move forward with it, with what we have, and respect it. Now, people will say, well, Jay, you're hypocritical because you're all about Alberta independence and you don't care about the treaties of the land here. But I do. And what my answer to you folks who are so hop about treaties first and no, Alberta cannot be independent is the fact that you are suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. You want to stay with your captors? You want to stay with the oppressors that destroyed our tribes? Like I'm Métis. I'm a mixed breed. I'm mixed breed. My mom's Sicilian. My dad's is Mikmaq French. Right? But I know the oral history. I know the history. I know the traditions. I lived on reserve. I spent years on reserve. I danced at powwows. I mean, I sat with elders. I learned. I listened. And what I know versus what the Canadian government likes to dish out onto the open population with propaganda and lies, that's where there's a twisted narrative. And that narrative needs to be corrected. So, trust me, I respect the treaties. Don't get me wrong. But the treaties are clear in what they state. And the chiefs that are barking up the tree and saying, you can't do this, and we have a veto, and da-da-da-da-da. Most of you chiefs are corrupted and your bands are run down. Let's not forget the chiefs that are from Saskatchewan trying to dictate Alberta, right? Millions of dollars of corruption. That needs to be addressed. So I commend the good chiefs, and I commend those who are signing the petition. I got a lot of signatures going out canvassing by First Nations individuals and Métis individuals from different territories. And now we have First Nations and Métis canvassers out there getting signatures from our own people in our own territories. So what's that telling the chiefs? What's that telling the band councils? What's that telling the Federation of Chiefs of Alberta? Nobody's listening to you. You're not speaking for the people. The people are speaking now. And it's time for them to listen. We are tired of living in an oppressive regime. Tired of living in Stockholm Syndrome type dysphoria, suffering from trauma, from historical trauma brought on by the Crown, and then using that and then trying to blame the general population that they're guilty of the crimes of the Crown. Unbelievable. And you want to stay with the Crown? I call that the gravy train syndrome by corrupt chiefs. Right? Anyways, Alberta first, man. Canada works best when Canada respects the Constitution and respects the people, but they don't. So I'm all for pro self-governance on the treaties and speak up for those who are being oppressed by the Crown, using the RCMP Gestapos to go raid our shops. Like, give it up. So my thing is I'm in support of the protests and the blockades out in the East Coast. It's justified. I know that the chiefs are doing the right thing and band councils are doing the responsible thing by having consultation right now with the province and that, and they're setting their own rules. So that's a right move in the right direction, right? Where are we at here? Yep. So we'll play one more song, and yeah, man, I've been working hard on the songs, folks. it's just something to do on my extra time. But I'm working with some really good folks right now, and yeah, I just got to say it's fun as we're as we're doing it, and it allows me to play music on my show. That's royal, no rights infringements and nothing like that, and. Because, I mean, I had to take down a lot of podcasts because we were just continuously being bombarded with copyright checks. And we were like, what? I have licenses. Alberta Radio here, we have mechanical licenses to play anybody's music through BMG, SOCAN, Nielsen, and all this stuff, right? Like playwrights. And it doesn't matter, like social media, like it's just ridiculous. And then to register that so that you are approved on social media, you got to pay another $5,000. I'm like, not doing it. So what we did is, I own a couple record labels. So what we've done is I assigned a bunch of my friends in Europe. This is pretty awesome. I got a lot of my European buddies. I've sent them all the old catalog of Omerta Records, Ariella Records, and Dead Cat Records, or Dead Cat Recordings. As well as Acadia Digital, all the music that we have as a massive catalog of over 2,000 tracks, sent them into our buddies, and we've given full permission to redo the tracks, remix them, redo them. So as a trade-off, they're like, we're not going to do them alone, right? So I've been doing a lot of work and getting these tracks finished up with them. Speeds up the process, and present them on Alberta Radio. Royalty free, right? So if you want a copy of any of the music that we play that's produced by our team, you will get it for free. You just got to message us, email us, jason@albertaradio.ca, and ask for a copy of whatever track you heard that day or that podcast, and we'll get you a free copy. So that's what we're doing. Anyways, we're going to play, what is it? One Pulse, One People. It's a new track that we just finished up last night and ready for the final track of the day here on Alberta Radio podcast, the Alberta Radio show, right? Before we go, I'm just going to say this. I'm very happy that the Alberta government passed Bill 25 and 26. I'm very happy and pleased to be part of Stay Free Alberta by, as a canvasser and doing my best to spread the message. And I want to thank Mitch Silvestri and all the canvassers and Brandy and everybody. You guys have been awesome, and it's great to be part of something. So I just want to mention that. And lastly, I am running for mayor of Edmonton when the time comes, folks. So I'm not fundraising for that or anything like that, but I'm letting people know my intent right now. I am going to go out there and put my name in when the time comes. I am already looking at solutions for Edmonton. We are the capital of Alberta, and I feel that the people running the city are running the capital to the ground. And I'm patriotic to Alberta in a sense where Edmonton needs to shine. We are the capital, right? We need to shine. We need to do better, and we need to teach. That's what capital cities do for the communities that surround them. So I want to put forth the solutions I have. One is to end homelessness in less than a year. That's a big one. I'm taking a 50% cutback on salary that this taxpayer pays me. I don't want the full thing. I want just 50% so I can pay my bills and live. But at the same time work for the people. I have revamped proposals to revamp all these programs we have here in City Hall in terms of infrastructure management, and new plan to increase the downtown core's presence in terms of shopping and being more of an attractive an attractive centerpiece for Alberta, right? Right now it's just run to the ground. So once we put forth the solution for homelessness, that will start the domino effect of all the plans that we have in place, because that is one of the most detrimental issues right now. We have 4,000 people homeless in Edmonton right now, and that just blows my mind. So with that said, we're going to leave you with One Pulse, One People. Don't forget, you can support Alberta Radio by subscribing to our YouTube, subscribing to our Facebook. You can send an EMT donation to us because we are we don't make much money, man, and we're not government funded, but we appreciate the donations from our supporters. It helps us grow, and we use that money effectively for you. Like, we listen to our listeners and our followers and suggestions, and we use that to help pay our overhead and put more investment into things that make more of a presence for all Albertans. And, you know, so yeah, you can send an EMT donation to Jason at albertaradio.ca. I'm very appreciative. We've had a lot of help over a few months, and I'm so humble about that it helps build our brand up in that. So anyways, moving forward, that's it. Hope you guys have a great, beautiful day. God bless Alberta. And this is One Pulse, One People from John Wikkened and XL420, who's myself. Have a great day, everybody.
We don't share flags, we just share time. Voices collide, names disappear. 1,000 tongues, one rhythm in our ear. One pulse, one people, hey, hey. Heartbeat in the steeple of the night. We rise, we equal, rise up. Different faces, same light. From the desert to the rain. One signal in the sky tonight. Lost in the noise, found in the sound. You were a stranger, now you're my crowd. Eyes closing, borders fall through. Every echo pulls me into you. One pulse, one people, one love. Heartbeat in the steeple of the night. We rise, we equal, rise up. Different faces, same light. From the desert to the rain, we are singing out the same refrain. One pulse, one signal in the sky tonight. One people, heartbeat in the steeple of the night. We rise, we equal, rise up. Different faces, same light. From the desert to the rain, we are singing out the same refrain. One pulse, one signal in the sky tonight.